We got the legs of the children in the bottom. That's why you got to come up a little higher. You know, just
Okay.
right here.
I will control the slides.
Just perfect. Camera right here.
You guys want a quick introduction for April, right, or you just want to take it?
You want to introduce
What's
the
that?
event and then we'll take it from there?
I do that from here then, April?
That's fine.
There we go.
Is it already?
It's recording.
It's recording.
I'll have to cut this. It's
We'll,
fine.
Okay.
we'll edit.
We'll edit, don't worry.
Good evening. My name is Charlie Dorothy. I'm the chairman of the Civic Events Education Team of the Douglas County Democratic Party. And we have with us tonight Cornelius Williams, Yanira Garcia, Josh Corrigan from the Metro Transportation Board, and that are going to teach us about the board and what they do. So thank you.
Great, thank you, Charlie. Yeah, I think I'd love to get us started with some introductions. We can talk quickly here about why we were interested in the transit board to start off with, and then maybe why we're running for re-election. Cornelius, you want to go ahead and start?
Well, I'm interested in the board because it's what's needed for our people to increase the amount of transportation so people can get to and from jobs, to and from stores and different things like that, events downtown. So many more things. And this just being after 2 years on the board, since they just started the board 2 years ago, we're up for re-election and we still have a lot to do to get there.
All right. So hi, my name is Yanira Garcia, and the reason why I am interested in this board is because I understand the importance of public transportation. Much like Mr. Williams just said, it is an important aspect of our society, our community. Obviously, we all want to live in thriving communities, and in order to do that, we need to be able to provide services like public transportation that connect people to their jobs, to grocery stores, to the health, to wherever they need to be. And so I think that there are a lot of opportunities within our regional metro transit for improving our service, and I want to be a part of that.
Thanks, Yanira. Yep, so I'm Josh Corrigan, District 5. I've been working on transportation projects in the Omaha area for 15 years or so now. Transit projects are kind of my favorite thing. I'm really excited about trying to get people to use the systems that we have here more and making them, better for people. I've been riding the 97 Express for about 10 years now, and fortunate to live in a neighborhood, even out west, that's connected to downtown through a transit route like that. But really, I'm interested in what this board can do because I'm interested in removing those kind of barriers to access that make it hard to use our system, but also removing those barriers to access for people who need to get to their job or their social services or just, entertainment, parks, whatever. I also see transit as being something that can kind of improve the brain drain situation we have in this region, right? Young people aren't staying around here. There's been plenty of survey work done in the region. It shows that transportation is a big issue for younger people, and they find in other cities that there's easier ways to get around without a car. I think we can find ways to make that a possibility here. It would also be an improvement. So want to go ahead and move to the next slide? Yeah. So these are the districts as they are. So Cornelius in District 1 is kind of covering that North Omaha area there. Yanira is down in District 3, which is kind of South Omaha. District 5 is where I'm at, so that's Miller, kind of on the western side of the city. And then we've got all of our other esteemed colleagues shown on here as well across the region. This is a brand new board when we ran last year, 2 years ago, but 2024, right? So it really hasn't been that long, it feels like. So when they established it, some of the terms were 2 years, some of them were 4 years, so that we get into a cycle where every term can be 4 years, but we're not re-electing the entire board every single time we go up. All right, so. What
So-
is the RMTA? What's that stand for, you guys?
Rapid.
Regional, metro.
Yeah, regional. Yeah, I know it's regional. I like rap. I guess it's because I've been in other places like DC. There was a rapid.
Yeah, they do use that a lot.
So
Regional Metropolitan Transit Authority is what it stands for.
I like that.
So this was created through legislation in the state. The state's always had laws about transit authorities. What changed when Senator Justin Wayne introduced this in 2019 was that the transit authority itself could be autonomous. Under the previous law, it was kind of tied to how cities are set up, the size of the city, you know, and how they qualify. When the legislation passed, Omaha was actually the only area that qualified. The Metro board voted at that time, the appointed board voted to convert in 2022, and then we all had our first elections in 2024.
Mhm.
Which was a fun experience. I don't know.
Yes, it was. It was for the most part. And here we are.
And here we are. So the boundaries of the RMTA are the city of Omaha right now. And that is because the city of Omaha is the only member that belongs to the RMTA. Any metro area, you know, any city outside that metro area within kind of the I guess
Limits.
the metropolitan statistical area is kind of what this whole thing is called.
Mhm.
They can vote to join with a 2/3 vote of their governing body. So that red line you see on the map there, any of the cities within there could vote to join. We're actually exploring out of it, you know, kind of left field. The city of Blair has some interest in connecting their population to the workforce down here through transit. So there's going to be some work done over the next couple of years, I think, to see how possible that is and what would be a good fit for them if they actually wanted to join. But they could vote to be a member, and then the district would have to grow to kind of cover that area, which is interesting. There are only 3 of these elsewhere in the United States, though. Denver, San Francisco, and Oakland are the only other elected bodies.
Fun fact, Denver has, real quick, 15 board members. I don't know if you guys knew this.
15?
San Francisco has 9 and Oakland 7. Or the other way, I think 9 Oakland and San Francisco and 7 like this.
I like 7. That's a good number.
Yeah. Yep, much of 15.
So the board was previously appointed by the mayor of Omaha, and that was from that original transit authority legislation that established it basically. Similar membership kind of structure where any city could be a member, but the authority itself was granted through the city. The taxing authority came through Douglas County, if I remember correctly. So it was handled a little bit differently, and the authority itself was not necessarily independent. But as this has been converted, RMTA now has independent control over all transit operations in the region. We collect transit fares, and importantly, we have taxing authority. And that is why we are here today, because once you get into taxation, you have elected officials so that people are properly represented exactly across the region.
And we kind of already mentioned a little bit about this. There's 7 board members,
8.
7 different districts.
8.
Who's the 8th one?
Is there 8 of us?
No, there's
No, there's 7. That's why I'm like, yeah. There's 7 districts. And so basically our job is to, at the board meeting, so we meet every 4th Thursday of the month at 8:30 a.m. Those meetings are also live through Zoom, so anyone can join. If you're not able to make it to our offices down here, on Cumming Street, so that down here where? Cumming Street.
At the bus station.
Yes, at the bus station. And so our job basically is the items that we go over on a regular meeting. If you ever join or come visit, which we hope you do, we'll go over administrative reports, any contracts or purchases that we may need to vote on, policies, and anything related to planning.
Yeah, we really do encourage the public to attend.
Yes.
We have public comment. It's an open meeting, so we would love to have participation. The meetings are also broadcast on Zoom, so if you're not able to attend in person, you can attend online and provide comment online as well.
Yes.
So yeah, we passed the budget in September. It's an annual process for the RMTA. September 2025, the total dollar amount, $138 million. $94 million in disbursement. That means kind of what we're paying out, and then we have 44 million in cash reserve. That money all comes in through a variety of sources, but as you can see on this graph, tax levies are by and large the majority of our funding. We get some federal dollars. A lot of times those federal dollars go to specific large projects. We just made a large purchase of buses, for instance. I think we have 26 new ones in the fleet now. And that was partially due to federal funding that we received to do that. We have contracted service. We have fare box, so that when you go to pay to get on the bus, all of that added together is only 3% of the money that we're bringing in. Some other funds in there, and there's actually a little teeny tiny thin line on there that represents state funding. I think we don't even get any state dollars actually this year. Nebraska's Department of Transportation, transit's not the highest priority for them, especially in urban areas. They disperse most of those funds to rural transit agencies around the state, who do kind of different types of service than what we do as a transit authority. That cash reserve is an important number. Metro is self-insured, so we cover, accidents on the road with our buses, but also the health insurance for our employees. So we have to keep a large sum of dollars for that cash reserve to maintain our insurance status.
Also, going back, if you look at this, you'll see that the fare is only 3%, which keeps us a low fare. Right, so the fares are only 3%. So if someone says, well, why don't they raise the fare? Well, we're trying to keep it low, and some people even want us to go free. So you have to look at that as a whole, why it's only 3%.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing that the fare box return is low. Like you said, we want to keep those rates low. I think it's even been since the 90s was the last time maybe that Metro raised rates. So
Yeah.
This is not a for-profit enterprise. We are serving the people in the region. So I think they do a good job of figuring out what the right dollar amount is every time they look at service. And if we add something new, what that would be. And yeah, I think the goal is to make this accessible.
And I think we are one of the lowest fares, Metro Transits in the region altogether.
It's pretty cheap.
Yeah, so let's talk about how the bus system operates. That is our CEO, Lauren.
Yes.
Lauren Sensick was hired in 2020. Before she was hired, Kurt Simon was the CEO for quite a long time. He's now one of our fellow board members, so it's great to have that experience on the board. Metro began operating in 1972, which doesn't seem like that long ago. We've had transit in this region for a lot longer than that, but prior to 1972, everything here was operated privately. So you had a private bus company, you had many private streetcar companies, all the different services that were operated, all the way back until, the early part of this, the city's formation were all private companies. They were all kind of fighting each other and losing service to cars as those kind of became more and more popular over time. And the city built more and more things for cars, and eventually it was going to collapse. So they passed new state laws to allow the city to kind of take over in 1972. So that primarily that service is in Omaha by law, and then contracted out Council Bluffs, Bellevue, Ralston, Papillion, La Vista, considering Blair. Yeah.
And we must point out that Council Bluffs is in another state.
That makes things a little bit interesting that we deal with two states in our system, because our state laws in Nebraska don't apply necessarily to what happens in Iowa. Sometimes you have to treat things a little bit differently. Another reason here, right here.
Yeah.
So we have 344, at least my last count was 344 operators, mechanics, other supporting staff. We have 2 unions that we have bargaining agreements with, TWU Local 223, Teamsters Local 554. That's basically Nebraska with the TWU and Iowa with the Teamsters. It's I mean, I think they're doing good work there to try and, you know, make this a good place to work for those operators and mechanics and other staff. It is not an easy job, so I mean, I really respect a lot of what they do. I think one of our goals collectively as a board is to increase retention and find ways to, you know, make this a better place for people to work, because you do have a lot of turnover.
Yep.
It's not an easy job, so it's not a job for everybody either. So
Yeah.
you got to find the right people and get them in there. But we're always feels like looking for operators.
Yes.
Definitely. We need more people, period.
Yeah.
If you think after watching this video, you might want to try to be on the bus system, you know, either as a driver, mechanic, or as a support staff, feel free to apply. Jobs are available. And if we're going to grow, we're going to definitely need more people.
Yes.
Yeah. Operating transit, you know, you're constrained by the amount of money you can spend, but it's the amount of people who can actually drive the vehicles that is most important. And if you don't have them, you can't grow your service. Like
It affects
fun.
our coverage,
You have $1 billion, but if you don't have a
right.
places, you can't spend it.
Absolutely. So that's the existing system. There's a couple different things I'd point out on here. Most of the service in the core of Omaha, those colored routes that are on there, those are all fairly frequent routes. I think 15 to 60 minute frequency, it depends. And that means the amount of times that bus comes. So you could be every 15 minutes if it's a 15-minute frequency bus. We have kind of express routes that go outwards into some of the less dense parts of the city. So down to Bellevue, La Vista Papillion, out into Millard. Those buses really only run a couple times a day. And then on Dodge Street, we have our Orbit line, which is our rapid transit line, which comes every 10 minutes, which is kind of a special type of service. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. So those kind of colored routes in the core of the city, that's our local bus service. There's 19 fixed routes. The variety of different frequencies. It kind of fits, I think the amount of ridership that they can get on those routes. They do a lot to kind of figure out how to grow and attract people to a route, but it's kind of what destinations can you connect? That's usually the biggest kind of, decider and how you're going to make that happen. Among that local service too, we have those 5 express routes. I ride one of those. My bus comes twice a day. So, that's a limited option. And so not everybody can make that type of trip. Luckily I work downtown, so I'll get on the bus in the morning. And then at the end of the day, I kind of plan the rest of my day around being able to get on the bus to get back home, because I'm pretty limited. Anyone using those routes is pretty limited in what they can do. The connector routes, those are kind of intermittent service. They serve one area in Northwest Omaha, and then we also serve the airport through a connector route. We're one of our in the plan for the agency. One of the things we're looking at is that airport service and what makes a lot of sense there, because Omaha is probably less of an airport friendly transit city than most of the other ones I've ever been to.
It's true.
I plug my ride too. So there's an actual app that we have that'll show you where all the buses are, like live location. That's myride.ometro.com. I use that a lot to try and figure out, when a bus is coming, or if I want to go somewhere I haven't been on a bus, you plug in your start and finish and it'll show you where it's at.
Not to mention, how do we pay?
I was just gonna say, do you want to cover a little bit about the payment?
Yeah, so we have a payment system as well. It's another app. We have a lot of apps.
Yep, 3.
3, maybe 4. Umo is our payment app. Yeah, that's basically a QR code scanner. So when you get on the bus, you can just open up your phone with a QR code and you touch it up to a screen and it pulls down from your account and away you go. They also accept cash on the buses still. At special locations too, you can purchase, fare cards as well still. So a lot of options. Umo's made things really easy for me. I used to have to either send away for my bus passes in the mail or go down to the Metro building to actually like purchase them in person if I wanted to use them. So that was definitely a step ahead.
I just paid cash.
And I do think that those are opportunities looking forward, at where we can be better with technology, and make things, more convenient for riders. I think that would also increase ridership, right? Though we are learning that it is not as easy as just switching technology per se, right? There is, I recently learned that apparently it's pretty common for most transit systems to have multiple apps, for planning purposes and such.
Yeah, and there's a lot of reasons behind that. One of them being any purchase that you make has like a life cycle behind it. So you
Mhm.
can't just like give up on something the next year. Usually you're invested for, I think, up to 7 years in some cases. So
Yeah.
it's not as flexible to embrace technology on the government side.
Yeah.
And I've experienced that in everything.
Also, the My app will show you where the buses are live.
Yeah, it's a really
Yeah.
nice feature.
Yeah.
So Orbit is our rapid bus, the big orange buses on Dodge, if you've seen them.
And it was,
They come every 10 minutes and it's basically downtown to West Roads Mall. The stops are spread out a little bit further too, to let that bus move faster so it doesn't just randomly stop. It's only going to stop at each of one of these locations, but it always stops, which is nice. I've used this a lot for like, if I want to go downtown for a concert and I don't want to park. I can park at West Roads, endless free parking out there.
Yep.
Hop on a bus, it's, 15, 20 minutes to get downtown, and I don't have to think about it once I get down there. So it's really nice for that. But honestly, I think our highest ridership route in the city right now is the Orbit buses.
it's like a subway
It's, yeah.
It is like a subway, yeah.
above ground.
Yeah, above ground, yeah. Really easy to plan for too. Like normally I'm like really building my day around. I need to be at this stop at this time. With Orbit, like I don't even think about it. I just walk to the station. I know within 10 minutes a bus will show up. It's pretty easy to use.
Moby.
So Moby is a paratransit service. This is something that we offer for ADA eligible passengers in our region. There's an application process that you need to go through to qualify for this, but typically it's people with qualified disabilities that have access. We offer it within 3/4 of a mile of all of our bus routes, and it operates a little bit differently. There's, a smaller vehicle. It has features and amenities to like be able to easily onboard a wheelchair, for instance. And really kind of the focus is making sure we can get people who couldn't normally ride a bus, an alternative service that makes it easy for them to get around the region.
And there is a text option that people can opt into if you want to get a notification or a warning that your Moby is nearby.
Yeah, so these are scheduled trips too. That makes it a
Yeah.
little bit different. It's not just a circulator or something like that. This is that fourth app. You have an app basically that you go through to book your trip on Moby. This is new.
What?
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about this.
Oh, the Flex program?
Yeah.
Well, okay, we can't call it Metro Flex, so we had to change the name. This was initially, we called it Metro Flex. But because of some complications legally and somebody decided to patent the name or copyright it, we can't use it anymore. But we will still provide the service. This is a very good service. It exists in 3 parts of the city. South Omaha, North Omaha, and one out west. What this does is allows us to, within a region, to where a person can call, well, not call, but use the app or call, you can still call, to request said share ride. And they'll come and pick you up, maybe not exactly at your house, but somewhere near. And then you get into the ride and they'll take you to where your destination or close enough where you can get off. The good thing about the share ride is right now it's $3 per ride, which is cool. It's on the app. It's within that same region. It does have a couple downplays. Like for instance, if your house is just right across the street outside the region and you put your house in it, it'll tell you can't get there.
Zones, it's by zones.
Yeah,
So yeah.
Because you have to be in the zone. So if you're wanting to go to your house and your house is just right across the street, just put the address in next door. And then you can walk across the street. It's really, we're working on it to get it better, the app to get better, to utilize that. That's why if you use a person, if you call in and actually talk to a person, you might actually get a better results. It's utilized, like for instance, if you wanted to go to the airport from downtown, you'd at least have to take the bus to about Cummings and then get off in Cummings and then take a flux to the airport. That's how it works, is it won't come past Cummings. So if you wanted to go to, let's say, the baseball game and you have to tell it that you want to go to the hotel across the street, just so you could get the ride share. Because it won't, if you tell it you want to go to the baseball park, which is out on the other side of Cummings, it's not going to let you do it.
Yeah, if you're able to walk, maybe to some place outside your zone, it's still usable for those purposes. But the app doesn't really give you good feedback to say,
Yeah.
all you have to do is move your point over on the other side of this line.
Right. So that's one of the things you have to.
We're testing it right now. It's in a pilot phase and it's a 3-year pilot. And this is really, other cities have done this to sometimes successfully, sometimes not successfully. I think we're going to have to tweak it to make it work for this region though. And so they're constantly looking at, what are those numbers coming in? How are people using it? And then we're going to have to ask those questions. Well, is there a better way that we could put these zones, for instance, or people interested in going places that the zones aren't serving right now? And there's a lot of space in between our bus lines that, you can't really reach. Pacific Street, for instance, has almost no bus service, once you get, past 72nd or whatever. So it's a way to connect you to the transit system without having to run bus lines everywhere because we couldn't afford to do that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, one way to look at it is supposed to complement the fixed routes, not compete with them or take over, right? So that's one way to look at it. But yeah, I think most importantly for whoever's watching, right, we want people to use it. We want people to provide feedback, and try to, because that's the information we ultimately are going to go off of to make decisions as to where this service would be used better.
To give you an idea of the area out west, if you were, it's 144th Street east. You have stops at 144th Street and goes east all the way down to the West Roads. So if you're wanting to do that, you can do that. If you're after 140, you may want to call, because I do know that sometimes, like I said, the app isn't perfect and it will mess up. So if you call and here's another tip. If you call the number and it asks you if you try to use the app, tell it no. Because if you tell it yes, it'll say, well, then we can't do you any better than what the app did. But that's not true. So tell it no. I've looked at the app and I've tried to use it.
Yeah, it's like these customer service things you got to work out, I think, with any system like this.
Yeah.
It's brand new for us. So I think we're all learning as we go along with it. Yeah, the zones there on the map. Orbit kind of connects out to that West Omaha zone. The way I've used it to get to West Omaha is I take an Orbit trip to West Roads and then I'll get off that and then use Flex service to get me kind of outside of those boundaries. North Omaha has been our most popular source of origins and destinations for this. One thing that you can't do right now is go from zone to zone. Some cities will let you, for a higher cost, go from one zone to another, but the way we have it set up right now, the trips have to happen inside each of those zones. So you can't really cross those boundaries in any way, which leads to those across the street complications Cornelius was talking about.
Yeah. It's-
All right, so for the transit or one of our ridership kind of descriptions or breakdown is we have a popular program called K through 12. And they ride for free. It is a program that was established in 2021. Till this day, as you can see the numbers there, we have the highest amount of riders come from this program, which in 2025 was 621,000 students, which is really cool. I think we all feel good to know that we're serving these many students in the metro area. And we definitely want to see it continue to grow. We want to keep it. And so is it every year that we have to renew?
So the program's in a partnership with the schools to some degree, and we had received some matching funds from the Omaha Public School District for this. Their students, by and large, were the kind of the biggest users of the program because the transit system really overlaps OPS for the most part, aside from those kind of expresses out west. So it's something that we're looking at an annual basis. I think we're kind of still in that we're trying to determine how we have a permanent funding source for it. There's a lot of kind of back and forth on how that operation happens. There's extra security involved. There's lots of things that you have to do to support something like this. But what's great is, we do have so many students using it. Like 621,000 rides in 2025 is huge to think that that number of students had that opportunity that, they normally wouldn't. I go to, past Central High School on my way home. If I get on the Orbit at the same time that Central's getting out of class, that bus is packed with kids. Like I've never, standing room only, like you rarely seem to experience that kind of transit in Omaha, but when school gets out, it fills up. This is really a good way though, I think, to help, combat that brain drain problem that we've had here in the region. I mean, not only is it, addressing this interest in transportation and transit that younger people have, but it's kind of creating a unique experience for them as well. Not every city offers this. So student growing up here, they become accustomed to having access to the bus like this. Maybe it's going to teach them how to use the system across the region, but also it's just going to give them a fun experience they can look back on fondly that makes Omaha a little bit more unique.
Also, just so to recognize this program is designed to work on the weekends and for all the times for students. So if they have a job that they need to get to, like say West Roads or somewhere like that, they can still use the bus to get there. And you don't have to worry about, well, my parents or this or that, or getting a ride with a friend to get to your job. You can just get on the bus, get to your job. Now, it is also important to tell you that this does not apply to the share ride program, the free programs. The share ride is $3 for everybody. Not, in other words, the K through 12 cannot use this. Did you also have a slide about the universities?
I did not, but they also have a program. Go ahead.
Yeah. So like UNO has a program where there's people ride for free, Creighton ride for free, and that's not just students, that's faculty too. And Metro has one for free. So you can ride the bus for free if you're
Student,
a student, period. Of these fine institutions in our area. So
this is where we're sitting for ridership. You see the first bar there is 2019. And then COVID happened and everything kind of went sideways, right? Everybody experienced the downturn, I think, in that period of time. But coming back to the other side of the chart, we've finally kind of gotten over the hump as far as where our ridership is and seen it grow. I mean, the last couple of board meetings, I think we've talked about those months having the highest ridership we've had even ever in Metro's history. So we're seeing more and more users of the system, which is encouraging. And I expect this number to keep going up as time continues on here.
as Omaha grows, that number should go up. And also with the increasing number of housing that they're putting down here downtown, that number will more than definitely go up because they're gonna not want to use their cars or get cars and still want to get around, definitely, as they want to go shopping.
Yeah, too many cars in a dense urban area doesn't work very well. Buses, transit in general, that can handle that traffic a lot better. I want to encourage that.
No, for sure.
Okay, RMTA and the streetcar.
The questions everybody wants to know.
Yeah,
Answers to-
when we were campaigning, I think all of us
Yeah.
probably, the first question we were ever asked was, what do you think of the streetcar? And whatever you think about the streetcar, it's not exactly the same thing as what Metro does. And we can kind of go through what that looks like. But the Streetcar Authority, OSA, is what operates the streetcar system. And that was created by an interlocal agreement, which is a kind of a state function and in state law. Basically, lets local governments have cooperative agreements about how they want to do things. Next slide here. Because of the way our transit authority law works in the state of Nebraska, Metro is the only organization that can operate transit, public transit. Because the city had kind of wanted to take a unique approach to the project, there was no way for them to actually be the operator of it. And they thought about maybe different approaches to that, seeing if Metro would want to operate it, or seeing, that ties into funding too, which we can get into in a little bit. But because of this kind of law, the city needed a way to figure out how to operate the project the way that they wanted to. So they created a streetcar authority, and Metro is a member of that streetcar authority. And in partnership with the city of Omaha, the streetcar authority is then authorized to operate transit. So kind of complicated, lots of legalese that goes into how that happens. But really, I think Metro is interested in the project and seeing what its possibilities are for accentuating and complementing in the existing bus system. The project in and of itself, though, is a huge financial investment and not something that Metro was able to just take on, on its own. The city also didn't want to go after federal funding. Federal funding will typically slow down a project. So they think this will launch in 2028. I bet you could have added 5 more years onto that if you wanted to pay for it with federal funds. So to get this through, they kind of had to jump through a lot of hoops. That streetcar corridor, though, which kind of goes down Harney and Farnham out to the Med Center and then back downtown, is really kind of the scope of the project and the scope of where their operating authority is. And Metro isn't really tied to any of the financing, the design, construction, any of those sorts of things. It's really almost a separate entity with participation from Metro to kind of ensure that the two systems do complement each other and that we can make sure it integrates well into the Metro system. So that board is appointed. 3 of those members are appointed by Metro. 3 are appointed by the city of Omaha, and then the Greater Omaha Chamber of Commerce appoints the 7th member, who is currently Jay Noddle. We have those, go ahead to the next slide, our 3 members from Metro. So Lauren, our CEO. Billy Klingman is our finance director. And then Edith Simpson is our legal director. So all the people that we would want to have in the room who have like in-depth knowledge of kind of what the decisions the OSA is making and what impact they'll have on Metro. Because I think our intent is to facilitate the city to do the operations, or the streetcar authority to do the operations of the streetcar. But we also want to make sure that Metro doesn't, take on we don't take on legal or monetary obligations that we couldn't afford.
Right.
And also that, it can complement the existing system.
Route.
And it's definitely having an impact on Metro. So the map you see on here, all those little red circles with a slash through them, those are all routes that are currently closed off because of streetcar construction. The main streetcar line, and then a lot of other projects going on kind of to help facilitate that. But you can see all of these different routes have been affected by the construction, and we're kind of in the process right now of determining how can we adjust the service that Metro offers to best, work with the streetcar system, and also make sure that all of our riders still have the access they need to the things that they need. And I think one of the biggest changes that is being proposed through this is this Route 30 reroute. So Route 30 runs basically from Florence all the way up in North Omaha, currently down to Dodge, and then its current configuration takes it to downtown. It does a loop around downtown on Farnham and Harney, and then goes back up north to Florence. Because Farnham and Harney is where the streetcar will inevitably operate, and we don't really want two competing services on the same streets. They've kind of reconfigured it and proposed to send it out to Exarban instead, which is nice. It adds another connection to North Omaha to Exarban. It also adds some connection points to the orbit line there. So if you needed to transfer, you could quickly get to an orbit bus. Lots of different services, jobs, all sorts of things on Saddle Creek as well, which is where the route will run. So I think there's a lot of potential here, but we're currently in the public engagement phase of all of this. So we're trying to figure out, from the members of the public who could be affected by this, what those impacts might be.
Also, if you go back to that slide, I'll point out that this will also increase the availability in getting to the health center, Nebraska Medical Center. And there are some new buildings on the other side of Saddle Creek that they're building that are health related, which will also make it easier for patients to get to those things as well, as it comes out.
So we've had a lot of public meetings up to this point. Just about all of them have happened. We had one yesterday at the North Omaha Transit Center. Tomorrow there's another one at 14th and Dodge, which is a big transfer point for the buses downtown across the street from Union Pacific. They've been doing a lot of our public engagement actually at transit centers recently, which I think is a cool improvement. Like if you have a meeting at a site somewhere, you're expecting people to show up, but instead they're actually meeting people where they ride the bus, which hopefully gets better engagement, have better comments, right? On how these things will affect people. So that final meeting's tomorrow. If anybody wants to, from 3 to 5, go hang out, and provide your feedback.
You can still probably provide feedback online.
Yes, there is an open form online where you on the Metro website where you can provide feedback. I believe through end of next week.
So,
Yeah.
1 second. 1 second. Yeah, I think so, through the end of next week, yeah.
All right.
So what's next?
What's next?
Metro next.
Yes, Metro Next is what's next. Metro Next is the kind of planning document that Metro put together a few years ago to kind of look forward. So it's basically a list of projects that go through the year 2030. So the next set of Metro board terms actually will also go through 2030. So the life cycle of this plan will kind of be complete at that point in time. Plan was kind of an attempt to get a lot of public feedback, of course. So there were lots and lots and lots of engagement opportunities throughout this across the region to find out how people are using the system, what they want out of the system, what's working, what's not working. And really the goal of it is to increase access, to get more people to kind of things that they need to have access to, through just improving and expanding the existing connections we have, but also considering, where can we add new service and where can we, what service isn't maybe working and needs to go away. So those projects go through 2030. Over the next year, the kind of things that are on my radar that we might be looking at with an updated signage project. So all of the bus stops, I don't know if you've ever looked at one, but it's almost like hieroglyphics sometimes.
Yep.
Doesn't tell you really anything about when a bus might be coming. It doesn't really give you anything other than it's this stop. And sometimes it'll say you can get on these buses here, but I think that'll be a huge improvement. The Flex program will continue to pilot that. New bus shelters, there's a grant awarded to the region actually to, in partnership with the city, add bus stops in a number of places across the region, which I think is a huge improvement to service. We'll be looking at 24th Street through North Omaha and growing the service there. There has been proposals to put a new orbit line potentially there, but there's also a lot that's going to be changing with kind of the streetscape and how that street's configured. And it's another thing where Metro needs to partner with the city of Omaha on understanding, the right way to put service out there. And then just kind of growing those frequency improvements, just making buses come more often and to the right places and all of that. And lastly, I'll mention in Council Bluffs, First Avenue and Broadway Street. They had originally been considering a streetcar there. They're still kind of studying that, but bus was also always an option for that. And I think the mayor there has some interest in improving transit in the Council Bluffs area. So that's another thing that may be considered here over the next year. So how do we make decisions? And when it gets to this level of detail, we're not the ones making these decisions. Our transit planners are making decisions, but there are kind of some basic things that go into transit planning. And kind of the two fundamental concepts are what types of service are you going to offer? So you have high frequency service. That means it comes very frequently, all the time, right? The more often a bus comes, the more likely someone's going to be wanting to use it, or the easier it will be for them to use it. So you end up with higher ridership numbers on buses that come more frequently. The other side way to look at the problem though is, what if we want to give everybody in the region access to a bus? So if you're sending about bus all the way out to my neighborhood, it takes a lot longer for it to get out there, but the people who live there at least have the option to use it. We only have so much money and resources to put into this. So there's kind of a trade-off between these two things. And usually most transit systems will look at how their city's developed, the land use, and then make a decision on how much high frequency they want to offer and how much high coverage they want to offer. If you want to get into the weird nitty-gritty of all of this, there's a book called Human Transit that I recommend. It's probably the best book about not only how transit systems are planned and operated, but also like how they can improve people's lives. And it's a really good book for that.
And I'll mention there's also things that the common public doesn't know, right? Because I learned about this as we're talking about planning and how to offer a better service and all of that. And it takes, every time there's a new route, right? I think it takes up to a year or 2-year study to figure out where that, so it's time, it doesn't just happen fast.
Yeah, the government requires feedback as far as possibility of the routes, location of stops, whether or not it's feasible to place a bus stop because of the sidewalks, no sidewalks, the timing of the buses going through. But even growing, like I said, the one thing we definitely need as the growth is we need more people in our system. We need to hire more people. The other thing to more growth is, let's put it out there, we need more buses. But there is an issue with getting buses that a lot of people don't know about. And there are only a few bus companies only a few people that make buses. And they're always backlogged. So even if we ordered a bus, let's say we ordered 20 brand new buses today and had the money for it, we can't get them until about 5 years from now. And that is ridiculous.
Yeah, it
So-
makes it very difficult to respond quickly to, things that change. And the city may change faster than
Yeah.
you can respond in those situations.
Yeah, so if anybody wants to start, building buses,
Yeah, here's a great place.
Here's
to do it.
a business idea.
go for it.
So the where question of how you put bus service out there, Metro uses something called a transit suitability index to do this. It looks basically at different parts of the city and kind of asks the question, okay, what are the households like? What's the vehicle access like? What's the population density? What are the destinations people have access to? How many jobs, those sorts of things. And then that connectivity piece, like, is there a sidewalk for me to walk to the bus stop? Like, can I actually get there? You have to have all of these things kind of come together for really an area to be supportive of transit. The really light shades on this map are low suitability areas. And you'll see there's not a lot of service that's connecting to those areas. Now you can change the land use. You can add density, you can add things to add sidewalks, add all sorts of things to make an area more supportive. But when you're going through the steps of figuring out how you're going to do this, you're really trying to figure out where you're going to get the best return because the resources are not unlimited. So most of our service covers those high suitability areas, the darker colors on the map. And if we're looking at a future location, we'll be looking at, where these things line up, and the map kind of helps tell that story a little bit.
So if you think you might want bus service where you live, get involved with your local boards, your local city, like Millard or something like that, or Sarpy County. Get involved, push them to let us come on in. And we'll bring the bus out to you. Because the city's growing, and the one thing you always have to do, public transportation is more than just for the inner city. It's a lifeline to growth. Without public transportation, your city is not going to grow. Your businesses aren't going to grow. Your potential income isn't really going to grow. It's there, and I realize that, we talk about bus drivers. We do pay the bus drivers very well, and it is a good job. They are very unique individuals who are people persons for the most part, like any other business, and they like to drive. They like to drive people where they want to go. They like to talk to people that they can have conversations with. But understand that when I'm driving, don't try to yap off my ear. So like I said, it is important that we get people into the system.
Yeah, those decisions are, I think we're really trying to figure out how to get people access to the region, no matter where you live, no matter who you are. Like, I think public transportation is an equalizer. And when you have access to it and it can take you to the things that you want, then that makes living here so much easier, right? And I think that's one of the most important things that we can do. It is an equitable kind of thing, but it's also, I think, just a fundamental, need for anyone who lives in the region to have access to something. There are jobs all over the city, right? Your ability to get there shouldn't be a limiting factor if you want to go to there. And there's, other things. There's parks and all sorts of things that people might want to go to.
Amen. Yeah.
But if you don't have transportation, it can be a real barrier. So I like that we're able to knock some of those barriers down.
Yep.
Plan itself, yeah. So the goals there are addressing equity, improving those connections. That customer service element, I think we're always working on that. We want people to have, a good experience when they ride our buses. Not every time is going to be good, and it's not always the driver's fault. We have a lot of construction happening in the city for one thing, but there's all sorts of reasons why, a bus might have an issue. But still, dealing with that when it happens. Buses are environmentally friendly. I think one bus has 40 to 50 seats on it. If you fill that thing, that's 40 to 50 cars that aren't driving. And if you do that every day for an entire year, a lot less emissions, a lot less wear and tear on our roads, a lot less traffic that other people have to deal with. So there's plenty of reasons why, you might consider that. And then Metro just wants to be a good partner. I think that's kind of the fundamental ending to that plan. And I think the fundamental recommendation was that whatever organization is interested or suitable or lines up with, transit operations, Metro wants to be a partner. I guess with that, probably get to closing thoughts here. So if you guys want to add anything else here at the end?
You had a question?
No, I'll just, the questions up.
Got a couple questions.
Yeah.
Hi, thanks for taking time to come here today. So for each of you, what are your 3 goals for the next 4 years? Want to go first, Cornelius?
3 goals,
Yeah, sure.
but, okay. Expansion of the bus routes, get more employees. And somehow find, because we're gonna need more buses. I know how full the current depot is. We may need another depot.
Okay. Nice. Yeah.
For me, like I mentioned earlier, technology is one of the items that I think we just need to figure out how to make it more convenient for riders. Especially thinking about we're trying to attract our younger population to stay in Omaha and such. Well, we all use apps, right? And I mean, I'm not that young, and that's so convenient for me. So I can only imagine younger people are so much more prone to using that. So we need to figure out how to cater better. And that's one. The other one is we mentioned, and I'm glad that Metro Next has already kind of a plan for that, and that was the signage. I do think it's very confusing in our current system, how for a new rider or a visitor to get to use our system, it's very confusing if you don't have had to learn it. So there could be 4 signs in one stop and you have no idea where you're supposed to be. And you may get on the wrong bus and end up like what happened to me, end up in the wrong part of the city that you were not trying to get to, and so on and so forth. So I think just little things that we can do right now, that would be one easy one in my opinion that we can tackle in that current system. And then the other one, I know it's one that I struggle with a little bit because we're talking about consistent or not consistency, but coverage versus frequency. And I'd like both, right? I'd like to offer more coverage and also have frequency, but we know oftentimes resources won't allow us to do that. So how can we, for me, it would be on focusing our current system where we already serve and we know people are using it. How can we make progress by at least making it, offering a more frequent service in those areas, making, like perfecting that and then figuring out how to grow from there on. So those would be my 3.
Very nice.
Yeah, so the safety of our system, I think, is pretty good right now in general. How we access the system, though, is not always that safe. So partnering with the city of Omaha to really understand how we can grow connections, the sidewalk system, the trail system, the different ways that people can get to the bus, finding a way to knock down some of those barriers. And Metro is not a builder of sidewalks. That responsibility does fall on the city, but I think we can look at kind of where our stops are right now and get a better understanding of how people can access those stops and find ways to make those improvements to make things safer for people. I think we talked about this a little bit, just improving the retention of our employees. I think whatever we can do to make this a better place for people to work. I think it is a good job, but there's a lot that goes on. So we want to make sure that the job itself isn't a barrier to people being there. We want them to, feel confident in what they're doing and feel like, it's a good place for them to work. So whatever we can do to help with that. And then this kind of technology piece too. I think there's a lot we can look at in other places in the country that are doing some interesting things with transit, and finding ways to get those technology pieces that fit our system, because not everything that works in some city is going to work in Omaha, but I think there's things worth exploring. So definitely growing those things is important to me.
Very nice. Just a kind of a brass tacks question for the average property owner in Omaha. How much does the RMTA cost them?
The levy's at 11 cents right now, I believe, or 11 mil. Sorry. So I don't know what would be an average property cost. And then I have to do math. I'm not going to be able to do that.
11 cents per 100,000 or
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
You also have to realize that property, the assessment of the properties in Omaha are not even. And not only is it not even, but some say it's behind other areas in the state. I won't get into much more detail than that.
Okay.
It is interesting though. He's totally right. The way that the city approaches that has not been done the same at every part of the city. And so you've had some properties that have been at lower assessment levels than maybe they should have been, and some that higher than they should have been. I think they're trying to work towards bringing that all into balance, but it's never been
Well,
fair.
it's not-
Fair is probably the right word.
Well, it's not the city that does it.
Well, yeah.
It's,
county assessments, but
it's
yeah.
the county, it's not even really the county, it's a state thing. Most people don't realize it's a state thing that how it's, they want to get the revenue based off of where it's being used.
Mhm.
A higher population will reduce the revenue or the property, the value is for tax purposes, not selling purposes, for tax purposes, which are two different things.
Okay.
And so down north, one of the things is it's a higher density of population. And so you don't need the property tax to be as high as you do out west.
Okay.
To compensate for the usage.
Okay. Very nice. I appreciate you guys explaining. And I guess growing ridership, what's something that each one of you want to focus on in the next 4 years to grow ridership?
Feel like there's opportunities was the most feasible one. That's a better question. Well, I think we're already kind of doing something towards that, as we mentioned, the K through 12 program.
Mhm.
I think that's like a no-brainer, and one of the reasons why I think we want to try to do whatever it takes per se to keep that program going, because those are young kids, right, that will grow into a system that's second nature to them and just continue to use it, would be the hope. I think that we can always, again, it's just a matter of, we covered it in one of the slides, where the more frequency you have in an area, just people will start using it more. So focusing on that, I think, would cover the increase of ridership.
I'll give you an example. I grew up in here in Omaha, and I grew up when the bus system was, there weren't so many curves. The bus used to go down like 3 streets near my house, and I could catch any one of those 3 buses to come downtown. And that's what I do. And go to West Roads or wherever else. The frequency was reasonable. The usage was high during when people need to go to work, in school, and when people went home. It's afterwards. At night, it dropped down, of course, because not as many people are out. And those buses were so frequent, it was no problem for us to utilize. So yes, I am pro bus system primarily because I know how it works. I know the importance because that's what I utilized. So that's what she's speaking to when she's talking about the kids using the bus system. Because whether they use it to just go to the parks downtown or whether they are out west, they're learning the bus system. And I also know some people who won't ride the bus, which is like, get on the bus. So the mentality of the rider is important in being able to get them to ride the bus. And we may have to increase maybe some commercials on TV, things like that to enhance people's wanting to get on the bus. And definitely location of where you're going is going to be important, and availability. We talk about 24th Street. 24th Street is a very important corridor in North and South Omaha. Well, in North Omaha, like I said, there was one of the streets near my house I could walk to. And what I'm seeing as in that area, I will, quite frankly, they're making it harder for the bus to go through. the way what they're doing with the streets in some areas, and it's because they're trying to limit traffic for the regular person, which is still bad. And they're trying to address things without putting in stoplights. They're trying, like, there's one intersection, I hear they want to put a roundabout in. Roundabouts are not the friends of buses. Because they're just big and they don't go around. And definitely if we want to put an orbit on 24th Street, that in itself is going to be a pain. So it is important to, if we want to expand, that we get the cities to understand. And not just the city, but anybody who's building, the building road constructions, if you have a choice. You can try to make it low traffic or better traffic. Low traffic is not necessarily better.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess as it pertains to where I live in my district, so West Omaha is not a place where we're going to see frequent transit anytime soon. The way that, the area is designed is just, there's so much more space for cars and dedicated to cars out there that I think it'd be really difficult to make that work. What I do want to see though is, we have a lot of employers in West Omaha. I think finding ways to get people connected to those jobs is one way we could increase ridership out there. And when we have a destination that justifies, growing service to that location. So what can we do to, figure out how to make that work for people? And, is there a good way to make that work? I ride the bus from there myself, and it's, you're going to give up something time-wise if you're going to choose to do this as like a regular thing. It takes longer. It's only 10 minutes longer really for me to get downtown, which isn't a huge amount of time, but for some people, 10 minutes can be a lot. So what I try to, when I talk to people and try and encourage them to get on the system, what I try to tell them is, every day doesn't have to be a bus day, but hey, maybe 2 days a week, your schedule's a little bit, less tight. You could ride the bus on any of those days, and it just kind of slowly grows your, usage of the system, because you don't have to use it all the time. And there's going to be times where it doesn't make sense. Especially if you have to get home real quick for something, and the bus only comes twice a day, right? So it's how can we accentuate your travel behavior?
Well, that's the other thing, when you point out time that you spend on the bus, what people don't realize is that when you're on the bus, you're not driving. That's relaxing time.
Yes, traffic stress is like huge reason why I did this, and I can just sit there and read my email or whatever.
Right.
Do the Wordle and stare out the window. I don't have to worry about that crazy guy in front of me.
It's a more relaxing time, and it's healthier.
Yeah.
It's much healthier to ride the bus. Stress wise, even if you're going to work, once you get on the work, you get on the bus, it's going to take a certain time. You just relax. You read, you check your emails, you can do all kinds of other things on the bus that you can't do while driving. If I'm driving down the highway, I got to worry about who's there and there. It might take me shorter time, but that stress is still on me. But then again, it might not take you shorter time because of the traffic. So riding public transportation, not just the bus, but any public transportation. If you're in a larger city, that's why they have newspapers or things. A lot of people, they read books, go through a couple novels a month because they have a long ways to go and they know that. So I would also say that health-wise, it's a good idea to ride the bus.
Very nice.
Point out the good things.
May I add just one last thing? So I represent District 3, which is predominantly Hispanic Latino, right? Predominantly immigrant. There are immigrants from other countries as well that don't necessarily speak English, right? And so I think education is another aspect and another easy tackle, so to speak, for increasing ridership. I think there's just a matter of educating people on how to use the system, and then they're more likely to use it. So
Perfect.
So we're about out of time. I want to thank you guys not only for coming tonight and teaching our listeners about the organization that you lead, but I know that you have personal lives. I know you have other things that you do, and this is a labor of love that you guys take a lot of time to help lead this organization, and I want to thank you for that. I want to end with this. Would each one of you please tell me what your educational level is and what you do for a living?
Yeah, I can start. So I went to the University of Nebraska at Omaha. I have a Bachelor of Science in Geography. And I work for the Metropolitan Area Planning Agency. So I do transportation planning as my job too.
This is his jam. So I have a bachelor's degree. I have two of them actually. One in journalism, public relations, and advertising. And then the second one is in Latino Latin American studies. And then I have a master's of communication as well. I currently work for First National Bank and I do marketing for them.
I have a PhD in physics. And I adjunct at Metro and anything else I feel like doing.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time, and I appreciate you coming and educating us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, stop recording it.